Joining me now, Max Haot, the CEO of Vast. And Max, it is great to speak with you today. You've just announced that you've raised $500 million. This is the first significant outside investment round for Vast. What does it enable?
So for us, it's continuing our roadmap of building America's next space station, and also for allied partner of the United States. We are laser focused on having the privilege to replace the International Space Station. So that means both building all the technology and infrastructure that we need to do it. We're well on the way with it. We will be launching our first single module space station, Haven 1, in Q1 next year. And you can see a model of it right here, and also some of the hardware behind me. And then NASA is running a competition called the Commercial LEO Destination Competition this year. Congress is obviously pushing to have a decision so that the commercial providers can have a replacement to the International Space Station before it is retired in 2030, or maybe now there are discussions to 2032. So funding our operation and our growth so that we will be ready and very competitive when bidding and building the replacement to the ISS.
Yeah, you just mentioned it, but just this week, lawmakers moving forward to lay out a timeline to get to this second piece, the second phase of the Commercial Low Earth Orbit Destinations, or CLD program, to field commercial space stations. So what are your expectations now that we are getting some more detail about how this could go?
I think there are two messages in the bill, right? One is NASA must move as quickly as possible and issue the RFP and then award it to two or more winners. So we definitely welcome that. At the same time, we are so excited to see what Jared Isaacman has been doing to the Artemis program and the clarity of having stepping stone and increasing cadence. And so, we believe he will announce what will happen to our program as soon as he's ready. We're confident it will be good and logical for America and for commercial providers that are building real hardware and delivering, such as us. So the next step is really, issuing the RFP, and we are waiting and ready for it.
And what's so interesting about Vast versus some of the other commercial space station players is that you haven't already received that NASA money to build out and develop your space station. You've done it all, you funded it all in-house for the most part, right?
Yeah, we have a unique situation that we joined the race to replace the International Space Station late in 2023, when NASA had already picked and funded with a phase one competition some of our competitors. When we announced that it was our intent to win this competition, the phase two, which is due to be awarded this year, we came up with a leapfrog strategy, which is our thesis, which is why don't we just build a space station, a minimum viable product space station called Haven 1, launch it, bring a crew to it with a Dragon of 4, and come back home safely. And if we do all of that, or on the way to do that, I think we'll be impossible to ignore for NASA in terms of the hardware that we have. And right now you're showing actually a step before that. Before we have crew on our station, we'll actually launch the station without a crew. And before that, we launched a satellite which is there to test all of the technologies of the space station that are not human technologies. So the power, the solar array you just saw deploy, the propulsion, the flight computer, the ground station, the ground control room, the operators. And so that mission was called Haven Demo, launched in November last year, and was just deorbited it and was 100% mission success. The next one is the Haven 1 station, which you can see right there, launching without the crew on a Falcon 9 rocket. We check it out remotely, make sure it's all working, and then we send the crew on a Crew Dragon. So the key step of VAST is stepping stone. We can't just become the ISS in one go, and we have to do it in stepping stone to eventually a 4-module that will have enough power and life support system to enable continuous crew. So that's our unique aspect, and it's enabled, before the $500 million round that we announced today, we had investment from our founder, Jed McCaleb, in excess of $900 million. Now we've invested over $1 billion in American space station technologies, design, infrastructure, in facilities so that we will be ready to replace the International Space Station and build all these modules in mass production before it is retired in 2030, now maybe 2032. We think it should be retired when there is a commercial replacement available, and we are ready to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what's so notable to me about, you just laid out the stepping stones and the strategy here, but you are moving so quickly to develop all this technology. What is enabling you to do that, especially when you look at other competitors that have taken longer?
Well, I think, in the 1960s, they were going probably faster than we are now with no computer and no tool. And we have also the trailblazing of SpaceX to thank, vertical integration, rapid iteration, and doing it at low cost in a way that remains safe. Clearly you've seen the Dragon spacecraft that brought back the ability for America to send astronauts. It sent more than 60 people, maybe now 70 people to the ISS and other mission. And thanks to that transition to commercial, we are now able to leverage it and now focus on doing the same commercial transition for the destination, the space station. So, it's been done before. It comes from having the resource to do it, the right culture, and the right strategy of iteration and stepping stone. And most important is the incredible team we have been able to attract and hire, motivate, which really, believe in our mission and believe we have what it takes to do it. And without that team, which is an incredible amount of human spaceflight experience, none of this would be possible.
How do you see the market opportunity for commercialized low Earth orbit and for a space station such as Haven 2?
Yeah, we see it quite differently than what we hear from our competitors. Our view is that the end goal, VAST wants to be the best creator of human habitation in space, right? Including on the moon when this opportunity will come, and on Mars, and also other orbits, not just low Earth orbit with the ISS replacement. That's our end goal. We want to be the best, obviously safest, lowest cost there. If you look at the opportunity today, we believe that a provider should become profitable on the current market. And the current market is simply international space agencies led by ESA in Europe, the European Space Agency, JAXA in Japan, and obviously NASA as the core, one of the largest customer. And then there are more and more countries around the world that are getting involved in human spaceflight, especially as the price is reducing thanks to commercial. And they want to bring their industry to space. They want to bring their astronaut. They want to do important science and research. So that's today's market, right? Sovereign nation, including America, sending crewed mission to space. There's a little bit of private, but we're definitely not in the space tourism era. And that's not really a growing segment, or one we focus on. I'm sure we will have some of them. And then there is the long-term future, which is the LEO economy, doing in-space manufacturing of drugs, of semiconductor. And so our view is that VAST must be able to be profitable thanks to our low-cost approach and obviously the investment we've put in place on the current market. And we need NASA as a customer, we need Europe as a customer, we need Japan as a customer, and others. But we have a plan that's close to be profitable on that market. And then as we have a station up there and as we are profitable, we will get to unlock the lower orbit economy and figure out with pharmaceutical companies and semiconductor company these new microgravity opportunities to create product. But we are not dependent on that becoming a few $100 million revenue per year in 2 years. It might take 10 years, it might take 5. So that's our conservative approach, which I think is very different than some of our competitors, which I do believe are relying on the arrival of the LEO economy in a few years, and we don't think that might be realistic.
It sounds like the competitive landscape is due for a shakeout, potentially, if I'm reading between the lines on what you're saying.
I mean, we really hope that NASA pick at least 2 companies. And, I wish they could pick more, but the budget is fairly limited, but it should not be one. So I certainly would like, one other competitor at least to be successful. We will be ready for the call to replace the ISS. I believe we will be successful, obviously. Maybe there'll be eventually space for many more. But right now, we really hope that 2 of us will perform and will give the redundancy and the backup that NASA and America and its partner deserve. Of course, you could also award 2 and only 1 perform. And so that's why it's really critical for NASA to pick 2 at the next phase.
Are you thinking about this opportunity regarding data centers in space?
We don't think data center in space actually mixes with human spaceflight. On Haven 1, we have gigabit connectivity from Starlink laser. We are the first space station that SpaceX has agreed to provide laser terminal that go directly to Starlink. And so that means that you don't really need local compute and so on to aid the science and the research. what we do, I am personally bullish on data center in space, especially for SpaceX and the position they will be in with Starship and what they have with Starlink. And there are, some crossover for VAST because a data center satellite in space needs a lot of power. And guess what? It also needs a lot of power on space stations. So watch this space. We'll figure it out whether we play a role in it. But we see more as a common technology to high power satellite as opposed to mix human with data center racks into a space station.
If I just dig more into the human piece of this, you were just selected last month for the 6th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. What does that unlock for VAST, and how does that speak to that pathway to enable more regular human spaceflight for your commercial space stations?
The International Space Station is there. All the nations around the world are obviously very interested to send their astronaut. It's been there for 25 years, and it'll be there for a few more years. And so in the same way that for technology and hardware, we want stepping stone, we recognize that in terms of sales, capturing the demand from these space agencies to go to the product they know, in terms of marketing, in terms of working with SpaceX, but more importantly, getting to know as a company the International Space Station, the product we are trying to replace and improve, working with NASA on delivering a mission and all of the integration milestone and so on, we think are a great stepping stone to have the privilege to replace the International Space Station. So as this opportunity came out, we competed and we were very thankful to be awarded the 6th astronaut mission to the ISS that will launch in July next year. So they launch pretty closely to the first mission to Haven 1, our own space station, which is due to launch in Q1 next year.